is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we return with Adrienne of Seven Spires. Great to be able to talk with you again.
Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, anytime, anytime. It's actually really funny. I'm speaking with you this week because earlier this week I also interviewed Insomnium, which was the first. I was the day that the lockdown was imposed. I just got confirmed to interview you and Insomnium that day. Yeah.
Um,
Yep. I get
wow.
I get the on-site contact info, and then right afterwards I get announced that it's canceled. So this is making everything come full circle.
Yeah, hopefully this is towards the end of it.
Yeah, knocking on wood
Yes,
drastically.
absolutely.
Yeah. But it's so great to be able to talk with you again because we're getting some new Seven Spires, Gods of Debauchery, coming very soon, September 10th. You released two singles, The Cursed Muse and The God is Dead. Could this maybe serve as a good representation of what the entirety of Gods of Debauchery is going to sound like? Or being that your music has a lot of different elements already, this is just the tip of the iceberg?
Absolutely. It's a great reflection of some of the directions, at least, that we've dived into with this record. Actually, I think we've now released 5 singles, which is a third of the album.
Wow.
But yeah, I would say This God is Dead is very indicative of the scope of the album.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does this at all like have any relationships? Like, is it almost like the sequel or the continuation to Emerald Seas, or is this like a new
Yes.
beginning for the band?
It's chapter 3, I guess. So we have now the complete trilogy: Solvay, Emerald Seas, and Gods of Debauchery. So yeah, it's the story continues.
Do you think? Do you recommend that listeners who may just be getting on board with Seven Spires to go back and listen to the first two albums in order to fully understand Gods of Debauchery? Like, do you look at your albums like Lord of the Rings in a way, where you?
Yeah, I mean, not to be pretentious about it. Um, I don't think you need to have listened to the first 2 albums to enjoy Gods of Debauchery, but I feel like there are, not just in terms of the story, but also musically, there are so many Easter eggs and references to the previous albums that kind of ties everything together. So, yeah, our fans have already started picking out, like, oh, that's the melody from that song from album 2, or oh my God, that's from album 1. I can't believe that I'm hearing this in the latest single. And so yeah, I would recommend at least checking it out.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
love.
also for obvious reasons, but
Yeah. Well, if this is sort of like a trilogy, then every third movie. I'm kind of referencing a rule to a horror movie, but like the third movie always relieves something from the past of like the first one. So is there gonna maybe be like some solved mysteries coming to this one that we didn't hear off of solving?
absolutely. I'm so glad you asked. So, like, chronologically, we released Solvay first and then Emerald Seas, but the story version is Emerald Seas is chapter 1 of like the prequel, and then we get Solvay, and we get the incineration of the underworld, and we don't know what happens after that. That's a pretty decent ending, but then Gods of Debauchery kicks in, and then we see, like, oh, now it wasn't really over, and now we have a lot of shit to unpack.
Wow. And did,
Yeah.
did did these ideas just come as you were making more music? Like, did you like listen over Emerald Seas and Solvig being like, oh, we really need to finish that part, or like, do these ideas just come? Like, did you always plan it to be like this from the beginning of Seven Spires, or did this idea just develop as you were making more music?
A little bit of both. When we're writing, we typically are like, we assume it's going to be a concept album because that's the kind of people we are. And we assume it's probably going to be within the realm of, the universe that we've built so far. But the story isn't always clear until we have kind of the main plot points. And that isn't always clear until like we can fully flesh out certain scenes and. So the story kind of writes itself in a way. We don't really sit there like, here's where the climax is going to be, so we're going to write that song. I don't, it's like the songs and the story introduce themselves to us, and we're just the mouthpiece for which they become tangible.
Have you ever thought about expressing these stories through other artistic mediums as well? Like, have you ever thought maybe about like a graphic novel or like maybe even a movie?
Absolutely, yeah. You're definitely not the first person to mention graphic novels. I've been a gamer my whole life, and for so long, I'm like, I want to make a Seven Spires game. And I know there's like an Iron Maiden game, and like it's I think it's a mobile game, but I want to make like a 70 plus hour, like semi-open world, semi-linear, like big ass thing that you can like fully immerse yourself in. Because those are the types of games that I love to play. And yeah. Yeah.
I got Zelda Breath of the Wild like right when the pandemic hit. I could not have gotten it at a better time because we were living in an apocalyptic universe and like
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you play that?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. How far did you get into it? Because within like a week, I got all 120 shrines, every divine beast. Like I'm almost every Korok seed now.
Oh my god. Okay, I did all of the main stuff except for I haven't beaten the Calamity yet. And that's I got the game actually for Wii U a few
Oh,
years ago, when I was still like, in the before times when we were able to tour. So it was like I get 2 weeks at home and then I have to like spend a month on the road, and then I come back and it was like, what was I doing? What's the controls? I forgot.
yeah.
I'm busy. So I never fully finished because I just like kept having to put it down and then pick it back up again. Um, but yeah, I mean, you definitely picked it up at the right time.
I know. It's like it was so perfect that like I felt like more at one with it. Like I got it 3 years after it was released, but like I think I made the right decision waiting because I felt like I was in the
Absolutely.
game. Um, but and that's cool that like you play video games. Like do you almost like sometimes reference video games like as a form of research? Like it has playing video games been a way of like what I like to say is stacking ammunition for ideas?
Absolutely, yes. Playing video games and like watching films. It's I like fantasy. I'm not like there's a certain type of fantasy that's like a lot of power metal bands go for, and that's not exactly my flavor. I like really melancholy fantasy, like JRPGs specifically, and like things that like touch your soul in a way that like is really painful and poignant. So I like dragons as much as the next like melodic metal musician. But yeah, playing video games is definitely refilling the ammo chest.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's funny you mentioned that because these aren't open world games, but like I've always loved those like story games, like Life is Strange, for example. That really has. I don't know if you've heard of that, but like
No, I'm not familiar with that
they're
one.
basically like interactive movies where like you don't lose, but like every decision you
Oh,
make determines like what the how the story is gonna go. So you just make certain decisions, and that's how the story ends. And you want to try to get the best ending or the worst ending, and you're not gonna know until you make a choice. So
wow,
it's a
that's
really
really cool.
and it's cool that because you're right, like dragons and these epic battles are all fun and good, but like I think your music has the ability to also resonate emotionally, and that's mainly within its melody as well. So
Thanks a lot. I think we more than anything, it's always been about writing what we feel, and so much of the focus is about expression. And I mean, even down to the fact that I really have to try hard to be able to talk about my feelings just in conversation with somebody, but like the art is the outlet for all of that, and that's why all the songs hurt so much.
yeah, I mean, you led me perfectly into the next question I wanted to ask you, is because as somebody who loves concept albums, I think one band that I think is really mastered the art of concept albums is Mastodon, because and Crack the Sky, which is the Mastodon album in my opinion, but like that was about a historical aspect in Russia, I believe, but then it was also rooted in Bron Dahler's sister who passed away. Like, has there ever been a time where maybe your personal life or your personal experience also influenced the music and even the lyrics themselves?
Absolutely, yeah. When I was taking songwriting courses at first, they're always stressed, write what you know. And I don't know shit about anything, but I know how I feel. So I wouldn't say like the albums that we write are like Dear Diary, today I did this and that, but it's like any given song came from like a specific thing that I experienced. And it's, I guess, I rely heavily on my experiences to make sure the song has enough depth to it. So it's not just like, this is a song about being depressed. It's like, this is a song about my sadness. This is like the weight that is on my chest. The fact that I can't go to sleep. I have nightmares every night. There's a pain in my back because I haven't slept or drank enough water because I can't get out of bed. Things like this that make it more real and more. I don't know. I think real is that's the best way I could say that. So yes, long story short, a lot of it is my experiences, but obviously I don't have a magic ship. I'm not immortal. I haven't killed the Kraken or anything.
Yet.
Yet, that's right.
But is it fair to say that maybe like this story, and not completely, but is it almost kind of like an external metaphor of who you personally are?
To some degree. I mean, there's so much of all four of us in the art. I think, like I said, I can only write what I know. So like lyrically, it's like, yeah, there's some stuff that I have gone through, and I would say that everyone, yeah, I'm just afraid to say that, but yeah, yes, call me out on that.
No, it's all good. It's all good, and it's funny too because I also feel like the music does capture a moment. Like sometimes, like a big thing is like you don't want like a song just to get to the next story. It's not, you don't want one song to be just a bridge between two songs. I feel like you made every song sort of count, but each song also stands out on its own. Like even though your albums are concept friendly and they are concept driven and you have to should listen from start to finish, I do think your albums are also very shuffle friendly where people can listen to it at any angle.
Thank you so much. That's exactly what we go for.
Oh really?
Yeah, I really want, I know that like most people aren't going to listen from top to bottom, but I want people to be able to pick out a song they like and be like, I lived this exactly. How did she write this song about me? And then like, even if they don't relate to the rest of the album, I want them to be able to be like, yes, this one is mine. I'll keep this forever in my heart.
And have you always felt that maybe when you're in the music or even performing that because you have these stories and stuff, and do you almost feel like maybe, for lack of better terms, you're like portraying a character of some sort? Do you feel that maybe like you and everybody in the band is almost like portraying personas outside your personal lives?
In a way, yeah. I mean, I can't speak for anyone else. I don't think any of us are like, and now I will become Vlad the Impaler on stage. I definitely just try to access different parts of myself when I go on stage or into the studio. And it's not like everyday Adrienne that I operate as. There's definitely, I mean, like, I like to dress like this every day, but it's not, this is more of like a stage outfit. And so like, that's the visual version of what happens on in my, come on, focus. There we go. Sorry.
But
yeah, it is like playing a character or like a larger than life version of a specific part of me, I guess.
Yeah.
And or maybe it's just that I'm so like open and honest, and then that's weird for me to be. So that feels like a character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a famous saying, you are what you create. So the fact that it's coming from you anyway, I think it's going to, but I also think that there's such a fantasy driven element behind it. I feel like, I don't know. I think your music could really encourage people to express themselves in ways that they feel like they couldn't.
I really hope that's the case. I've seen it happen to some degree. I have a Discord server with my patrons, and like everything from people becoming more comfortable with like their personal fashion sense to like just being more comfortable in their hobbies and the things that they like. It's been really cool to see. So I hope that's the case for everyone else too.
And when you've played with different artists before, such as Avantasia or Winds of Plague, like did it almost feel like maybe if I were to see you with Winds of Plague or Avantasia, would I almost be seeing a different side of the Seven Spires, Adrienne? Do you almost feel like you are portraying different characters in a way?
Yeah, I mean, especially in the past, it was like that. Over the last maybe 2 years, I started realizing that I really just want to be myself. And the place that I can do that most effectively is here in Spires. It's like my home. And if I were to go play with Winds, I will choose to express something because I choose it, not because I want to fit in, because I am afraid and need to feel secure, I guess. But in the past, it was very much like I need to blend in and make sure that like it's going to be fine. And I'll just be this deathcore person and great. It's not, that's like a sliver of who I am artistically. And I don't want to keep hiding everything else that I am or betraying myself in any way.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting really deep on you.
Please do. Please do. I love these types of answers. Um, I do these
And this is
interviews.
also like I'm not saying anything bad about any of the other bands that I'm in. It's just the way that I've like dealt with myself in those situations. I want that to change.
Yeah.
But yeah, you would definitely still see like I'm not gonna go out on stage with like Winds of Plague in like a pirate shirt. That would be weird.
You never know, though. Maybe it will be
Oh well,
well
maybe.
received.
Maybe.
Yeah, and it's funny too. Isn't it also because like maybe with Seven Spires it was a band? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but you and all the members of Seven Spires, you all went to Baruch together, and you all like know each other very well. So and you all started this band together. So it almost seems like you were and not to discredit your roles in Winds of Plague or Avantasia, but like it almost seems like you were coming into the band as it was already developed. They already had their sound and maybe their method of doing things. It almost seems like Seven Spires, you were there from its inception. It's almost like you have a very profound attachment to it.
Absolutely, yeah. I definitely, when I go into a pre-existing project, I of course want to respect their brand that they've built. But you're exactly right. Jack and I started the band in 2013, and it was always like, here's our vision for it, both musically and aesthetically. And yeah, when Pete and Chris joined the lineup, it was, I don't know, the band is like all of our child together in a way. So
Definitely.
yeah.
And do you feel that with the concept expressing that you do want to continue doing this on every Seven Spires album, or could you see other storylines maybe shaping for other albums as well?
Could potentially see other storylines. I think our fans like that we do concept albums, and I know we like to do concept albums, but we're only human. So maybe there will be an album sometime where it's not a concept album, maybe it's a different universe. That would be wild. We would have to like completely start over with world building. I don't know how I feel about that, but yeah, anything could happen.
I gotta ask, do you have like drawings? Like, did you have to like draw out these world building ideas? Like, I'm really curious to see that, like, that almost the Seven Spires studio is also like just a giant storyboarding room. I went to an art school, so like, I was surrounded by like animation and illustration majors, and their walls were just like giant comic strips. So like, I'm curious to see if that's what the Seven Spires studio looks like.
It's evolved over the years. I definitely have driven. I've drawn up maps and have tons of mood boards and stuff like that. But in the end, it's now become more of like my studio at home. I have like, I recently acquired this cottage piano from 1873. Wow. And yeah. So it's very aesthetic. And then I have like the big leather demon mask that sits on top, and like a model of the Queen Anne's Revenge, and like a bunch of old fucking books from like 1890 that I just found in a thrift store. I have like black brocade wallpaper. I try to make it look like I'm already in the universe, so that when I sit down to write, I don't have to remind myself of like, all right, that's what I was doing, and then that's that continent, and then we're gonna go over. It's just like I'm already in the world. Now I become this character. Now I'm the sad, captain playing organs in the ship or something, and it's actually just my MIDI keyboard. But
well, it's such a breath of fresh air too, because I mean, I've interviewed a lot of bands in that sort of do what you do, their own world building and their own characterization and all that. And I'm not talking smack on it at all, but then there's times it's really just like a facade, almost just like the theme, mm-hmm. or even like, I don't consider what Seven Spires does at any way, shape, or form to be gimmicky. You know what I mean? I think like you're very much what you create, and I think there's an essence of realness to it as well. Mm-hmm. So I think really that's why people are going to resonate with it. It's not just a gimmick. It's not just the face of the band. I think it is very much who you all personally are.
I would very much agree with that. Yeah, I'm glad you see it that way. I never want us to be gimmicky, but I think there's nothing wrong with like dressing up who you are, and just making that even more so.
Yeah,
I think that's my coffee about to arrive.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's definitely not a gimmicky thing. I think we all very much express ourselves in an honest way. And that's, you said there's like an element of realness. And I think that's the thing that anchors us in all of our fantastical adventures. It's all based with a little bit of truth.
I can
or a
only
lot of truth,
I can
depending.
only I can almost picture Seven Spires embarking on a tour and being just as adventurous as like anything else. It's like I just want to play the Zelda theme music from like Hyrule Field, like as you guys are like embarking on the tour.
That one.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have every Zelda song on my phone. I have a Legend of Zelda tattoo for a reason. So
That's sick. Hell
so
yeah.
so that was my first taste of darkness when I was at daycare and it was accidentally left in the Nintendo 64 and it pulls up into one of those dungeons that look a lot like hell.
Oh. Oh my.
Yeah. and the
Good start.
yeah. And the final question I wanted to ask you is we talked about it before, but like with the musical theory that you have the background in, I mean, do you really think about music theory a lot when you are writing? Like, are you really thinking about what goes with what? Because the music does sound very studied. It does sound very like technically impressive. So like, are you thinking about every key and every note and every chord progression, or has it just been so embedded into your mind you don't even think about it anymore?
Yeah, I don't really think about it that much anymore. It's like you said, it's just so stuck in my mind. The only times that I really start thinking about it actively is like I'll be sitting there like at the piano, like, all right, I've done this chord progression so many fucking times. Like, what can I substitute for that chord? Because how can I make this spicier? Where can I borrow from that's gonna make this feel more like what the lyric is saying? Because if we just go like 1 4 5 1, is that really going to sound like my broken heart and my shattered soul? No. But what if we go 1 4 minor back to 1 major? That's going to feel more like what I'm trying to say. Okay, let's try that.
If you don't mind me asking, because I'm trying to learn it on piano, but what key is Succumb in?
A minor, I think.
It's A minor? Okay.
It might be A flat minor, actually. Oh, God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's A flat.
I've been trying to learn it by ear, and I might have gotten like the first like three notes down, but I'll learn it one day. I will learn it one day.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's much easier to play in A instead of A flat. Fuck A flat.
Yeah. Well, I'll figure it out. But
Okay.
but before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and great to be able to talk with you again. Is there just anything else with the release of Gods of Debauchery that you'd like to promote? Obviously, with this fucking virus that I'm not naming on my outlet. But
Right.
I know touring is kind of up in the air. There are shows happening. I'm actually seeing Deicide tonight. But is there just can we be expecting to see Seven Spires on the road at all anytime this year?
We actually just confirmed one show for this year, but it's not announced. It was like literally an hour ago.
Okay.
So it's not announced yet, but hopefully that will go through. We do have plans for next year, and those will be announced soon.
Yeah. Soon.
Hopefully.
Soon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Seven Spires. Be sure to check out Gods of Debauchery coming out in September. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.